Welcome to the Wild Wisdom Podcast, where we learn how to heal our hearts, find our voices, and step into our authentic power as the wild women that we were destined to be. I'm the host, Jessica Love. Settle into whichever way you like to listen to the Wild Wisdom Podcast, and let's get started. And today we have a very special guest, Jade Horton. She is an Angelic Reiki Master, and today she's going to be speaking about her healing journey from a major accident she had in December 2020, having a near-death experience, and how she's healed herself and others through her stars. Thank you so much for being here, Jade.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really excited to hear more about your story. I've had several near-death experiences myself, 5. 2 of which happened before I was even like 15,
Wow.
Teenage years and then early 20s. And I resonate with that experience of kind of your soul leaving the body and questioning, do I really want to be here? Do I not? I'm curious what that experience was like for you, if you just want to jump right in.
Yes. So I've had 2 near-death experiences. One when I was 3 years old and I was quite poorly in hospital. And I sat up, apparently bolt upright at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, the lady with the lamp in the tunnel wants me. So my mother said, you're not having her, because she understood what was happening. And it wasn't till years later that I recognised the lady that with this little lantern with the lace on her head and in this dark tunnel with the bright light right at the back. It was my great grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never met her because she passed away before I was born years ago. So that was interesting. But the second one for me was when I had the accident on the 10th of December in 2020. When I landed on the ground, it was the brightest white light I have ever seen. It was blinding. And I felt my body there, and then my soul came out of my body and I was being lifted in the air. It was the most euphoric feeling I've ever had. And I felt so loved, just so much compassion. And I felt really held and safe. And then I felt this force jump back into my body again. And then that was when I took my first breath and realised that I wasn't going, and I'm still got to be here for obvious reasons now, I realise. But at the time I was like, why did that happen? It obviously wasn't meant for me to go then, really. Yeah, very, very interesting. Lovely experience. Yeah, really nice.
What were some of the like physical sensations you had?
I tingled all over my body. I felt like inside I was vibrating. I think that must have been maybe the frequency of the vibration that took my soul out of my body. Yeah, it was just very, very strange, but beautiful at the same time. And I've heard several different people's near-death experiences, and they're quite similar. Obviously, they're all unique, but they have a certain criteria, don't they, of how you feel and things like that. Yeah.
I totally resonate with your story. And I remember having a similar experience with the one that happened when I was 21. And I, without getting to the logistics of what happened, the first part of it was hearing this ringing in my ears. And it almost felt like I was listening to a stereo that was like on. It was so bright. And I got really agitated. And I'm not really like an agitated person. And I started feeling agitated. And then I woke up on the floor, but I wasn't really up. Does that make sense? Like,
yes, it does.
I could see what was happening, and I fainted before. Let me preface this by saying I have fainted before, and it wasn't like this was different. Like I just was looking around me, and I could hear these noises, but I could see too, like myself kind of below me.
Yeah,
and I didn't even have any idea of what really was happening. And then the next thing I remember, I was being wheeled into this ambulance, and I could see, this is so wild, but I could see this cord of energy coming from my left foot, and I could feel it. Even right now, I'm talking and feel the sensation. And I saw this cord of energy coming from my right foot. And my left foot was going to my grandfather that's passed away. My right foot is going to my grandmother who's still alive. And these are on different sides of the family, so they weren't a couple.
Yeah.
And I felt this energy almost kind of like this all-knowing kind of God energy flowing between them and from them to me. And I looked up and then I felt like maybe I was there. And this man was staring at me, this firefighter. And I still don't know if he was a real person or not. And he was looking at me in the eyes and he was like, "You're going to be just fine, sweetie." And I remember realizing that I could communicate with all these energies. That was a realization I had. And so I started praying and I said, "Dear God, I'm sorry I haven't been listening to you. I'm sorry that I haven't been listening to the things you've been telling me to do. I'm sorry that I haven't been living my life in a soulful, spiritual way.
Yeah.
Tell me whatever you want me to do to stay alive and I'll do it. Because I think I really want to be here."
Yeah.
And he said, "Heal yourself so that you can heal others." And I said, "Okay." And then the next thing I remember, I was being wheeled out of the ambulance and I was totally conscious. And my dad was standing next to me. Somehow somebody must have called him with a bag of Skittles or peanut M&Ms. Like, "Do you want one?" And the nurse was trying to tell that, like, we get and then that's kind of like all I really remember. And then
Wow.
that I was in the hospital and then I was home with a concussion and my whole life was completely different after. And I'm curious for you, what was your life before? I know the 3-year-old experience might be challenging to remember, but before this one that happened in 2020 and versus how it is now.
I've always been a spiritual person. Even from a young child, I would see things, hear things. I used to be able to remote view. I'm still trying to tap into that again. But I would say from the accident onwards, I feel like a completely different person. I have switched something maybe in my brain, or something else has come, maybe more of my higher self has come into me. I don't know. But I do feel completely different. And I feel like, I don't know, it's really hard to explain and put it into words. I've always been sensitive to energy, but I'm even more sensitive now. So I could be in a room and I could feel negative and positive energies, and I know when to step away from that as well, because you can get what you call energy vampires that like to try and suck the life force energy out of you. But I do protect myself every single day, so it's like a block for them. But before, I used to get quite drained, and I don't anymore, which is a massive difference for me. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. When you do have massive life experiences, again, like near-death experiences, I do find that people do change. I have seen several articles that I've read and watched on programs that they do start to change completely. And some people are like, "Oh, but who are you now? You're not the same person." But I think it's for the higher good, really. I really do.
It's like like a stripping away of these that were never really you.
Yes. And what no longer serves you as well, I think.
Yeah. Do you believe in reincarnation?
I do. I really do.
Was there any part of you that was scared when that happened, or?
No, not actually. No. I have a little question over my son Isaac, because he was born on my granddad's birthday. He had the same mannerisms as my granddad, and I jokingly said to him once, I went, "Come on, little Jimmy," because that's what everybody used to call my granddad. And he went, "That's not my name anymore, it's Isaac." And I went, "Okay." So I thought, could be, I'm not sure. Or he could have been somebody else, I don't know. But I have been told both my children were very, very old souls. Very, very old. My daughter, this isn't reincarnation, but for her, from the age of 3, I had an operation on my ovaries. I had an ovarian cyst. I said I was going to work. I came back home. She came running up to me and went, "Let me put my healing hand on your tummy, mummy. You need healing." So when she did it, right at the spot where I know, she put her hand on my tummy and it went quite warm, and she was just stood there with her eyes closed. I was like, "What are you doing?" She went, "I'm healing you." And I was like, "Okay." And then she just skipped off. And then afterwards I said, "Where have you learnt that? Or who's told you that?" She went, "I don't know. I just know it." So I was like, "Okay." And she would just come out with certain things over the years. And another one at the age of 5, she went, you know, the crystal amethyst, that's for your crown chakra, mummy. Do you know what a crown chakra is? And she reeled the 7 chakras off, and I was like, what?
She was schooling you. She was like, listen, Mom,
Yeah.
I know what's up.
It was bizarre, but beautiful at the same time. So I'm very accepting of that, whereas I think it probably freaks some people out if they're not open-minded. And she had an affinity with my nan and granddad. She would take their pictures to bed every single night and get emotional and say, I really, really miss them. But she never met them. They passed away before she was born. So I explained this to her, and she went, but I know them. I went, okay. And she would come out with certain things that I actually had to check with family because it hadn't been said before. It was correct. And she said, that's where my home is. And I went, but your home's here. She went, no, my other home. So when I went to go and see a certain medium, it was about a year later after the accident happened, she told me that, she said, Sienna is with your nan and granddad, and she's telling you that she's home now. So that made sense to me. Obviously, it made me quite emotional at the time because I just thought, oof. But I knew that they were safe, and I loved my nan and granddad so much. So I wanted them to go to them. But yeah, it was a very surreal experience. And they taught me a lot, even though they were only here for a short amount of time. Sienna was 7 when she passed away, and Isaac was 3. But they just knew things that other children didn't. And I loved that because they were free spirits, and I encouraged them to be open and tell me things, and not to be scared about what they want to say or anything like that. So yeah, I just absolutely love my children. Although they're not physically here, they are still around, and I do get a lot of activity, especially around painful anniversaries, because my sort of mood does dip a little bit, obviously, but they move things, they turn things on and off, which are not actually plugged in at the socket. I get pennies with their year of birth on the other side, and I'm a very OCD, clean, tidy person. So when I find these random pennies in the house, and I just think, oh, okay, and I just know as soon as I turn them over, it's going to be one of their year of births. 2 feathers I get a lot, 2 robins that sit on the fence outside mostly. And normally robins are quite secular. They're not normally in groups. But yeah, they do all sorts of things. And I do feel them as well. They tend to stand towards my right-hand side of my body. Can't even talk now, my body. And I talk to them as well. And I get direct messages back. But before, when I was in a lot of grief, I felt when I did get these messages, was it just wishful thinking, or was it because I'm deep in grief? All these questions going in my head. And I actually heard my daughter once because I asked for a big sign, and she shouted mummy in my left ear, but it was like in my head and my ear at the same time. So I was actually doing a psychic development course at the time, and I thought, did I hear that or did I not? I'm not too sure, but it was really, really loud. And I tingled all over, and the hairs stood up, and I was like, wow. And I went the following week to do this course, and I said to the medium, and I was just about to say, and she went, Sienna's spoken to you, hasn't she? And I said, yes, she has. I said, that's what I wanted to ask, because I didn't know whether I was going insane or not. She went, no, you're not. She said, how did you hear it? And I said, left ear, in my ear and head at the same time. She said, that's a direct voice. And I've not needed that since, because I'm content with where they are. They're happy. They're in a beautiful place. And I get messages and signs from them all the time. So for me, although losing both of my children is horrific, I've learned to deal with it and cope in healthy ways, whereas some people can't, and it's unfortunate. But I like to try and help other bereaved parents as well, because I'm 4 years in, and some of them are in maybe their first year, and I know what that feels like, and it's like a tsunami, and then you just learn to ride the waves in time, really, for my opinion anyway. Yeah.
Thank you for being so brave and sharing your healing journey with us. I can't imagine the pain and sorrow of a child. It made me feel emotional hearing you share how your daughter and your son come visit you and connect with you. I want to honor the beautiful spirits that they are, and let you know that that wisdom that they hold and that the gifts they hold is all a mirror of you, Mama. And
It is.
so what a beautiful relationship you've cultivated with them on the other side. And I also love how even through this darkness and this pain and this loss and this grief, you also found a hidden gift of your gifts fully coming online. I'm curious, you were talking about the healing work you've done over the last 4 years. What were some of those things that you did to help you heal your heart after that?
Yeah. Okay. So when the house fire happened, it was about 6 minutes. Normally you have about 30 minutes that I was told afterwards, because you start to learn all sorts of things about how things work to get out of a house. And I didn't have that. So it was right behind me, and there was loads of people in the garden because it was just chaos. And I could hear my partner come in and shouting. I didn't realise what he was doing because I couldn't see anything. I was still by the window, couldn't move. And he tried to get in 3 times with 2 other neighbours, and the firefighters deemed it too dangerous to go in at the time. So they had to stand there and watch. I didn't see any firefighters around the back. They were all around the front. So I thought that my children had been saved and got out, because everybody in the garden said, "You've got to jump now, Jade." And I was like, "But I can't." And they were like, "You've got to jump now." So I had to climb out of the window. And it was like, it was seconds, because you don't have any time to think. Because when you're in a situation like that, panic, fight and flight starts to set in. And, in hindsight, a lot of people say, well, I might have done something different. Well, you don't know until you're in that situation. So you can't judge or say anything. But I did have a lot of that afterwards.
You had no idea, like you knew things were happening, but you have no sense of where your body even is.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can't get down the stairs. You can't open doors. My daughter's door was like jammed. I don't know what had happened. Maybe it was the heat that expanded. I don't know. So when I jumped, I didn't really think about it. It was a bit like, if I die, I die. If I don't, I don't. It was, I've just got to get out of this house. So when I landed, it was a 30-foot drop onto concrete. I heard my body crunch, and that's when I had the near-death experience. So after the near-death experience, I took my first breath, and then I realised there was bone sticking out and blood everywhere. Then the house went boom, and I kept asking everybody, because it was chaos. I said, "Where are my children? Where are my children?" No one would look at me. So the longer that went on, the more I'm realising that maybe they haven't got out, and maybe they have passed away. And it was awful. And I then asked my partner again, "Where are they?" And he just put his head down and shook his head. And that's when I made this animal roar. And neighbours are still from where I used to live. It was harrowing for them to hear that.
It was also harrowing for you to feel.
Yeah. Because your whole life's gone in minutes, and you never expect to have to deal with something like that at all. You never think it's going to happen, and when that does, it just panic. It's awful. So I managed to get into the ambulance. They wheeled me in, and then I was in and out of consciousness. So every time I woke up, it was another realization that what's happened. And then I'd fall back asleep again. And then it was torture every time I woke up. And I never wanted to wake up, because I knew what I was going to have to deal with again. So I spent 7 weeks in hospital. I had several 9-10 hour operations. I shattered my heels, ankles, my pelvis, sacrum, back in 4 places, my right hip socket, trying to think what else, sternum, right wrist, and I had a lung contusion as well. But I didn't realise until I'd come out of hospital, when I read my notes, that I'd actually been resuscitated as well. And every single day I would obviously have hospital staff come in, surgeons, consultants, saying, "You'll never walk again." And I kept saying, yes, I will. And they were like, under no circumstances will you ever walk again. Yes, I will. So this went on daily. So I did physiotherapy, trying to move because I was paralysed from the waist down at that point. So after a while, I'd move around the bed on my elbows. You find ways. Sliding on and off a chair onto a bed. And that was as far as I was able to do because I wasn't allowed to weight bear for, I think it was about 8 weeks. Wow. So I meditated daily.
In these meditations, what were you seeing when it came to walking?
I was going through my body and looking to see where my injuries were and sending healing towards that. And my inspiration actually is Dr. Dispenza.
I was going to say, it sounds like Joe Dispenza.
Yes, because a friend of mine told me about him. So I Googled him and I thought, oh my God, that's amazing. Because he broke his back in 6 places, didn't he? And he mentally saw his spine. So that's what I tried to do. And then after the hospital, I read about what had happened to him because he broke his back in 6 places and that he mentally looked at his spine and healed it bit by bit. So that's what I started to do, because when there's intention, there's power. So I started to do that and I felt I was getting stronger as the weeks went on. As soon as I was told that I could weight bear, I was a little bit hesitant because I was in extreme pain. So I waited a bit longer. So I attempted to walk at 12 weeks and I did with a Zimmer frame and I did 10 meters. It was exhausting, but at the same time, it was really exhilarating because it was like, I've done it. I know I can do this. Being told all the time that you can't do something. I'm quite a stubborn person when it comes to things like that. And I'm like, no, I will prove you wrong. I will try. So I did that. But whilst I was walking, I actually heard my children cheering in my head. Again, I don't know whether that was just that I wanted that or that was actually true. But in hindsight, I think it was true. Of course. So that spurred me on as well. So yeah, meditation daily I did. I then went to healers as well, Reiki healers. And they both told me, it was a male and a female, different healers, that I was healing myself. So I was like, okay, but I don't understand how I'm really doing it. I know I'm mentally trying to, but is that enough? And they were like, yeah, it is, because you've got the intention there and you can do it and you can naturally heal. Your body can heal itself if you do the right things for it. So I still continue to see them. I then got interested in how Reiki works. So 2 years, fast forward 2 years, I then was on Facebook. An advert popped up. All of a sudden, I literally just opened it and I thought, okay, that's meant for me. Angelic Reiki. And I thought, I've never heard of Angelic Reiki. That's interesting. Went to go and see the lady. Spent about 4 hours speaking to her. She was very, very interesting. And I was like, yeah, I think this is the right thing for me to do. So I did the course, practitioner's course in 2022. I didn't start practicing Reiki properly until the following year, which was 2023. And I've had different clients with different issues come to me. I've helped to try and heal a good friend of mine who I used to work with when I was in the prison service years ago. He had a similar accident, paralysed from the waist down. Again, told you we'll never walk. So I went to him every single week in hospital. He was a big skeptic to start with. He was like, I don't really understand Reiki. I don't think it's going to work. And I said, look, just allow me to do one if you want to. Yes, did it. Rang him the next day and I said, how did you sleep? He went, oh my God, like a baby. Because he had to be turned every 2 hours. And I remember that even being in hospital because you can't move because of bed sores and things like that. So his sleep was really disrupted. So I said, would you like me to come back? And he said, yes, please. So I went every single week and I could see there was difference every time I went. He was sleeping better. He became more of the person he used to be. He started to flex his thigh muscles, which again, they said, because he's got a really bad spinal cord injury. And I've been doing that, I don't know how long, quite a long time. And then he sent me a video once where he was sort of laying down, but his legs were crossed and he filmed it, and he was willing his leg to move. So he lifted it up and placed it back down again. And I was like, oh my God, he's been able to move his legs. So that actually made me cry, because I could see a massive difference. And it's important for him and me to have that connection as well. So I did say to him, I will do Reiki on him until he gets out of that wheelchair and he walks. I think it might take a little bit longer because of the severity, but he's making massive progress.
That's
and it's
so beautiful.
it is, and it's so lovely to have success stories. And everybody that I have that comes leaves my home happy and before they came in, because of different problems. And I just love helping people. I've always done it. I've had different careers in the past. Being a prison officer for once, it's one of those jobs that is very difficult, but at the same time, you're changing lives. You're trying to show them a different path. And for me, that was important. So I've always had jobs that have helped people, but this, I feel, it's what I'm meant to do. It's like a knowing. Even when I did the Reiki course, I felt like I knew most of it, which was bizarre, because I was like, yeah, I know that. And I didn't know I knew it at the time until it happened. But yeah, it doesn't feel like work. It's beautiful. It's a lovely energy. And when you're doing healing on people, you're actually receiving healing yourself. So it's like a double whammy. It's really lovely. And the difference between angelic Reiki and like traditional Reiki is you're attuned to the kingdom of light, and you are like a channel for angels and archangels to work through you into that person's auric field and in their body. And you can feel the different frequencies of the angels that you're calling in as well, because you call in different ones for different purposes, obviously. Archangel Raphael, for instance, he's healing. Archangel Michael, which a lot of people will know about in different biblical senses, is a warrior and for protection. And there's so many different archangels, but they are so beautiful in their energy. And it's lovely to feel that as well, and be connected to them. Yeah, I just love it. It's just so beautiful, really is. And I feel this accident has actually sparked something in me to actually be this person now and to follow this path, because that is exactly what I'm meant to do. And this is the purpose for me, because when I lost my children, I felt my purpose had gone. I thought, what's the point in being here, because everything's disappeared. But actually it's shown me a different way of thinking, and a positive way as well, because grief can be very negative. However, if you can sit with it and actually meditate and, give yourself self-care and love, it can change. And it has for me. Obviously, I still have down days, which is always going to happen, but I allow that. I don't restrict myself. I don't suppress my emotions anymore, which I used to before. And that was very unhealthy, because it's like a fizzy bottle. You keep shaking it, and then the top's going to pop off, and then it's just going to have, and it's an explosion. But now I'm a lot more calm, centered, and I just feel different. Really do. Yeah, really, really do.
What a journey you've been on. You can just take a moment to breathe into that.
Yeah.
I feel that everything in life is a teacher, and our sadness, our pain, our joy, our cosmic connection, our healing hands, the hands that heal you, the hands that you heal others with, are all teachers. And I'm really grateful for the lessons that your story and your vulnerability have taught me today. And I really believe are teaching the listeners who have tuned into this. And I hope, my hope is that this will inspire other parents who are dealing with loss or just anybody who has gone to the other side for a moment and come back and is resettling into their bodies, resettling into this physical realm, to know that you do have a purpose and you do have a destiny. And it's not a coincidence that you are alive. Yes, that loss is so painful, and there's a reason why you're alive. And I hope that everyone can cultivate that courage after they feel that they've released what they need to, which I understand, to cultivate that for themselves. And I'm really proud of you, even not knowing you very well, for doing that. And I'm sure every day that you walk on this path, your children are right there next to you on your right side and cheering you on, and just very proud of you and the woman that you're becoming.
Thank you. I'm really quite emotional.
I hope you received that.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you didn't share tonight that you want to be wrapped?
There was one thing actually, which again shocked me at the time. So when I started my business, I didn't know what to call it. So I had all these different buzzwords written down, and I kept looking at them thinking, no, it just doesn't resonate. And then all of a sudden I had this word in my head and it went Merkaba. And I thought, what's that? Googled it and I was like, wow, it fitted exactly what my business is. So obviously it's called Merkaba Holistics. So the Merkaba star is to do with Archangel Metatron. And it's also connected to Hebrew as well, because it means chariot. So when you split up the name, Mer, I'm trying to remember now, Mer is light, Ka is spirit, and then Ba is body. So yeah, I thought, wow, whoever gave me that, maybe one of my guides, I don't know, could have been. I just knew I needed to call it that. And I thought that was a beautiful experience, because I get things sometimes. I've always been a little bit psychic, but now I'm starting to open up even more, because I did shut myself off for years because I found it too draining. But it's not if you do it properly. So I do get premonitions. I'll get names pop in my head, and then I know that I need to contact that person and there's something going on at the time. Or I'll get visions that will flash in my brain. For instance, I had a massage the other day with a lady that I know, her daughter had passed away years before. And I kept seeing this hummingbird, and it kept going like whizzing all over the place, and then it would disappear and then it would come back again. So I thought, I'm going to have to say something. I was like, what does hummingbirds mean to you? And she sort of stood there, waited, and she went, actually, she said, when she was on holiday with her daughter, they love hummingbirds, and they saw this hummingbird and they kept trying to take a picture. Have you? Oh, they are beautiful, aren't they?
We're in the hummingbird conversation. That's interesting.
Yeah, another connection there, synchronicities. Yeah, and she said they saw this hummingbird and they were trying to get a video or a picture, and because it was so quick, it just kept whizzing from like plant to plant. So they couldn't. And she went, I think Zoe, which is her daughter's name, has come to show a message. And I said, well, she has, because she's come through me, because I can pick up things to deliver that to you. And I thought that was lovely. And especially with Mother's Day coming up, which is on Sunday. It's, I think it's quite a poignant time. Mm-hmm. And that helped her.
Yeah. I'm so grateful you were there to be there for her. And, I feel like that, and that you channeled Archangel Metatron.
Metatron, yes. Yeah.
Metatron. And I have a Metatron pendant as well.
Yeah, I've got the tattoo done as well.
So beautiful. So wild. Yeah. But I'm grateful that he's been able to, purify your spirit with the spirit of confidence and empowerment to be able to explore it. And I'm hearing a big part of your journey has been trust the universe, trusting spirit, trusting yourself.
Yeah.
your gut and the messages you're getting, and trusting that you do have some healing powers to bring into the world and again to bring. And I love that you've been really allowing yourself to trust throughout your journey.
Yes.
And the other through line I've heard throughout your journey so far that you've shared with us is courage.
Yeah.
And that is what you embody. I'm so grateful that you took the time and energy to share your story with us of trust and courage and overcoming.
Yes.
How can listeners work with you? I know you're in the UK.
Yeah.
Most of our listeners are in America right now, but like, I'm all about like, what are zip codes and what are countries? Like, let's just put it out into all the world. And
Yes.
hopefully there are people in the UK that will hear this too. But if somebody
Yes.
wants to work with you and they're not in the UK, how could they do that?
I can do distant healing as well. So when there's that intent, you can still do that, whether that person's there or not. A lot of people do obviously like physical, but you can send healing anywhere in the world. And it is as powerful as it is if you're face to face with that person. So I can do that as well. Later on in the year, I will be doing breath work because I think that is a very powerful therapy to use. It has helped me a lot. It's released a lot of emotions as well that have still been stuck inside my body. So that is something I'd love to do. But talking about courage, actually, a friend of mine nominated me for an award for courage, and several other people did health and wellbeing. So I'm actually finalist for both of them now. So on the 7th of April, I go to get judged and see if I win. So come on.
Wow.
So that would be amazing.
You definitely deserve it.
Yeah.
And so we will put that positive energy, that positive vibration out. And it's been so lovely chatting with you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much too.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Wild Wisdom podcast. Really enjoyed this podcast. Go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to spread this wisdom to other sisters who might need it.